Saint-Domingue was a prosperous French colony because of sugar trade run by African slaves. At the time, France was broke because they had spent lots of money helping the Americans fight the British. Therefore, Saint-Domingue was their main source of revenue, and they wanted to protect it at all costs. Vincent Auger was a mixed-race businessman and landowner living on Saint-Domingue. Inspired by the ongoing French Revolution, he introduced the idea that French men of mixed race should have equal rights. This ultimately lit the spark that started the Saint-Domingue slave revolution. The whites gave the slaves the task of harvesting sugarcane. It was literally backbreaking work. The slaves soon decided to revolt. Living on Saint-Domingue at the time was a prominent black businessman, Toussaint Louverture. He owned slaves and believed in equality. Louverture, quote, was born a slave, but nature gave him the soul of a free man, end quote, Louverture. He became the leader of the slave revolution in 1791. Toussaint was educated and was a very smart and tactical general. Even though he was killed before the revolution ended, he ultimately put the slaves on the path to freedom. Liberty, equality, and fraternity were major principles of the French. The slaves on Saint-Domingue were fighting for these same principles that the French believed in. So, in 1794, the French granted full French citizenship to anyone living in France or the French colonies that did not already have it. Quote, in a stroke, nearly 1 million black slaves had become French citizens. End quote, PBS. Napoleon soon came to power in 1799. In late 1801, Napoleon sent troops to the island to attempt to suppress the slave revolt. While the army failed to regain control of the colony, Napoleon was not done with Saint-Domingue. He was done in the sense of wanting it to be a French colony, so he decided to levy a freedom tax on Saint-Domingue in 1825. He then decided to tax them 90 million francs. In today's money, this is $14 to $15 billion. Ultimately, the Haitian Revolution was a success, as the new nation of Haiti declared independence for itself on January 1st, 1804. The Haitian Revolution is the only successful slave revolt in history. While the revolutionaries were helped by yellow fever decimating the French army, and by having great leadership from Toussaint Louverture and later on his successor, Dessalines, the major obstacle that nearly undermined the Haitian Revolution was Napoleon's position on slavery. However, Napoleon was ultimately unsuccessful in quelling the revolution in Haiti.